going on to my YouTube collective and everyone that is out on this big star getting balanced right now. Um, this channel now we want to start sharing and teaching the lessons that we learned getting through the past few years. And if you look back on my channel from the very beginning video where I'm sobbing and I'm in my backyard of a house that I could no longer afford because my company had just, my intellectual property and technology contracts had just been stolen um, back in 2013 is when my journey really started, where I lost what I thought was everything to me, my company that I had worked so hard my whole life to build in high-end technology, my money, my house. And until 2016, it took a few years for me to, be brought to my knees, is basically what happened. I didn't get into spirituality because I was out to become enlightened. A lot of us chosen ones, the ones that were here in different families, didn't understand what lines and connections we had in our DNA, really didn't know our last names. Most of us weren't necessarily in what you'd call a spiritual community. We were going along our life paths, and some of us are true God-given missions, and a force of spirituality came upon us, which is what sent us into our closets on our knees praying for someone to hear us, because whatever perception was going on and whatever was being done to us was, to our knowledge, not in divine law, meaning we weren't getting what we were putting out. And there was an innate, and it can only be described as innate, and I know everyone on the planet has got to understand this part. You have to in a human body. When you're going to pray for something's not right, or why was this done to me, or what did I do wrong, because these are all questions that we go inside and we ask ourselves. I've learned that more than anything over my journeys of talking to thousands of y'all now. We talk to ourselves, we talk on the inside, we talk to spirit. Not necessarily everyone knows what those conversations are, but those of us who had specific missions here. Now, everyone's got a mission on the planet, but some of us had very specific missions that align to this constellation reset that we're living through. And that started me a journey of, at that time, I was taking a lot of pain pills. I was given to them. They were given to me since I was 9 years old because of my migraines, which is what, led me when I was 11 years old to the government, who put me in that hyperbaric chamber. Um, Now going through our events, and now in the past few years, are we only connecting and realizing what happened to us as children, what happened to us in doctors' offices, what happened to us in all these experiences that we had that were called our life. When you go through a repurifying process and you're putting your etheric bodies back together from when they were taken out before in a reset, then a lot of the times what we were doing is walking what would be termed a shadow, because the ancestor didn't ever make it that far. The you know if we're walking a timeline and an ancestor passes away, and then we're in that energy to carry the story forward, then what will happen is we'll take on, and this is what in your journey, you'll take on the energetic of that ancestor in order to finish it, especially in our lines, because that was the whole point of coming to earth. That was the whole point of reincarnating. That was the whole point of living multiple lifetimes. That was the whole point. The whole point was to be connected to these missions from your families before, and understanding what had been done so that it could be undone and fixed. Now, I said all of that to talk about the energies today, because as we have all these little tools now, different ones of us use different tools. In my world, astronomy, because why? Because when this 2020 alignment happened, when what you would say in our world, the COVID started, what really happened is at that point, those of us who had proven who we really were in our lines had taken a role in the story to allow those stories to replay out, so that we could make new decisions, so that we could end any karmatic negotiations, so that those things didn't start over again. And for those of us who have been charting this and walking it, that is what coHUE32 degree life is all about. coHUE32 degrees and this brand, and the healing products and what we're going to be putting out is all devised to assist you in reading your reality, giving you some tips, and finding out from all of you as well, once we get more interactive, how you're reading these energies, how you're making it through what you've seen. Because what we didn't know is energy. The main thing that the human did not understand, and still I would say 95% of the world does not understand, is that when an energy is made, it can't be unmade. An energy, when a bomb goes off somewhere, I mean, 9/11 is a great example. When 9/11 went off, realize that that energy was stored. There was always a September 11th energy after that that was stored in the ethers down below, wherever that ash went up to, whatever that combustion was, and however it was made, because it was made, because 9/11 happened because of astronomical lineups. It happened because the energy of the collective made it to this point. This event went off. Now that energy is stored almost in like a bubble as we walk through life all together in this one big bubble. So alchemists, and this could even, be said for the ones that we know have been controlling this energetic at a high way. All they had in masonry and all they had was logs of when events happened. And when those astronomical lineups were going to hit again. That's all that was happening. They were charting it, okay? And then the human collective forgot, and the time capsules in the body were sedated for the entire human collective so that they could control what we call time. When those of us stepped into 2020, it really stopped time. Whoever was around us in the stories that were going on, whatever timelines were being cleared, whatever energy was being sent to us, this is how we kept falling backwards, because their intention was even to send us backwards. This was a loop that a lot of us got in, that I need to talk about, because I know that there's a lot, of talk going around with especially all the readers right now about all the black magic that is being utilized. Well, also realize that just lying, just people straight up lying and telling stories about people that they don't really know, and they're assuming because there's been no communication and enough of people that are spreading these rumors, that is a form of black magic, especially to energies that get as clear like you do when you come through these ascension patterns, and especially if you're having to stand and claim an energy that would said to be dead. Because if you've completely transformed, which you do in this process, because this is all about becoming what they used to call enlightened. It's about rebirthing to your fullest who you can be now, to get back on your soul's mission of why you're here and what you're supposed to build and what you've been dreaming about, because your soul's going to know that. So, what I want to talk about today is the chart. And on Sundays, that's I am day. And these are tools, because I wake up and I'm cosmic surfing like you guys, right? And I have my Akashic library, because each of you are going to have an Akashic library of the events that have happened in your life, and especially the strange timeline shifts, or the changes that happen in your reality, whether you see them as good or bad. Tower moments, even good things. Or you get good news. So many of us, over the past few years, we've got good news. It's like we think, oh my gosh, well there's finally my connection. There it is. I've got a book, so here's finally my connection. And then it came in and it ended up being a shadow. Well, realize that if it was being written for the first time, there's always going to be a shadow that comes first. Whenever the sun aligns with the moon, you have new moon and full moon, right? Well, the new moon is on the eye directly. They're lined up. It's the pupil. Boom. It's all lined up. Okay. That is when you're manifesting. You want to bring in good things. because everything's all lined up. It's right on top of each other. You can get a really clear picture. There's not lots of interference that can be put in between the sun and the moon. There is, but not a ton. It's more magnified. The full moon, it's on the opposite side, right? So there's a lot in between the sun and the moon and that's why we say we're clearing in those times. And I don't know why I got off on that moon thing, but I started going somewhere and then I went that direction. So on Sundays we look at what's coming, and Sunday's I am day. So Sunday, this is why everybody goes to church on these days, and I am going to talk about the Turkey earthquakes at the end of this because it is in alignment with why it happened, is what I've been speaking about to this point on this video so far. Sunday, so it's Sunday, and right now and Sunday, what is it, the 12th? One more thing I'm going to add right before I start talking about this. On the last video, I had put, or the last couple, I said something about being 15 months ahead. Well, we have confirmed that. We have confirmed that. If you go back and look at November 2021 and see what you were doing then, I guarantee you, if you're in your flow, that there is something around the middle and beginning of November that you possibly have just done again. Exactly. I was building clothing, and we got tennis shoes. We got all of these cool things with the colors on it, and I was building products to the date 15 months ago, November 2021, that I was doing yesterday. This is how you can't convince any of us that we don't know what's happening either. Because we've walked in these energies and been conscious in these different parallel energies up and down since it's been clearing as a collective. And you charting, and we're gonna have calendars coming to y'all soon. We're perfecting how we're doing this for ourselves and sharing it with you guys. So Sunday I am day. The big things that are going on with this week is that, well, right now and tomorrow we have the moon going through Scorpio. So the moon, when I pulled the chart a few minutes ago, was 10 degrees 34 seconds to Scorpio, which is moving into Scorpio too. Now, what we learned is that from Scorpio, and if you have a pen, want to write something, write this down. Scorpio moons from 12 to 16 degrees, and you're going to hear me talk about that 12 to 16 degrees in a bunch of houses, because we don't look at the astrology over here. We look at the astronomy. We look at where moon is right now, okay, and what it's hitting in the astrology, but I'm looking at the energy of the system in that house that it's bringing in, no matter what dimension it is, because Scorpio is going to have a lower water dimension. It's not as high as fire. That goes to fire. Scorpio is where we say the alchemy and the magic, but those are hereditary in your DNA and from your other lifetimes if you hold Scorpio. What we found out is at the very beginning degrees of Scorpio, you've got a toolkit. You know you're able to, you have certain gifts and certain even recipes, and not black magic recipes, high energy things that you know to do. People at the beginning degrees of Scorpio, people who hold those, like crystals, they like all types of things that can add to their alchemy to help them produce. That 12 to 16 degrees Scorpio is where all the collective spells that are done on the collective, and I don't care if they're done by the government, I don't care what it was, that if it was a collective spell that was going to hit a group of people, they would have done it on this moon cycle, 12 to 16. Okay, so we really see a lot. And if you happen to have that in your chart, know that you were somehow utilized, or your family helped set it up because you came back from the founding fathers, or you were in a royal line, or because if you were in the higher, then most likely some of your family members were marrying you in the lowers, because there's no way to have such a high frequency, especially in the lower densities of time, without having somebody in the family that's utilizing their skills in a low frequency way, right? So, and then teaching the whole point of Scorpio is to remember why it was done and don't do it that way again, or to undo it. So this today, as the moon going through the second half of Scorpio, that's Scorpio 2. Now Scorpio 2 is when that spell's already been cast to change the people in your scene, and the people that hold Scorpio 2 energy, you've got them coming up in your reality. It's like all of a sudden you have these new people that are popping up, whether they be friend or foe, or new people, new things, whatever. It almost like it appears out of nowhere. That's because you hold Scorpio 2 energy and you're seeing those apparitions, whether good or bad, come into your world first, because then you're communicating and alchemizing and setting a scene with them, or cleaning house. Okay. So the moon traveling through Scorpio right now, realize that today and the first half of tomorrow, even as it goes into Sagittarius, so Monday and Tuesday, the moon shows us emotion. It's a reflector to the past. So we have the moon reflecting a lot of this use of magic, this use of power, even because Harvard Law is magic. It's being, it was set up on top of a Greek system, and people pay lots of money to Harvard, like the what we might consider and want to think in our head is somebody brewing a cauldron, and that's why we can't get it through our head that they're doing some type of magic on us, because they wouldn't be in their basement in the no, they're writing up a whole bunch of MOUs, or financial statements or financial agreements, right? Like Ponzi scheme stuff, even. That's a spell. It's a spell that a bunch of people get in and then believe and keep it intact, which keeps it whole, right? So we're going to have some reflections on that. Now that's coming down to Uranus at 1508 Taurus. Now what we understand about Taurus now is that it's time counts. So we've got Scorpio on this side that's maneuvering the energies, good or bad, whatever. It's hitting Taurus in the lower houses, and it's hitting it on timelines because it's Venus, and Taurus. Like, how do you best keep track of time periods? What people are wearing? What does their decor look like? What books came out? All these Venetian things tell us time. Okay. So with Uranus going direct and it going into 1508, what that is affecting the 1500s, because we went back so far to change time. And in the 1500s is when the Vatican did a series of royal weddings to set up what we are still undoing here, because it was just repeating. Now, the sun is dead on Cygnus right now. The sun is dead on Cygnus. And what Cygnus? Cygnus is the angelic realm. It would be, it's actually opposite Regulus, which is the royal kings, queen lines of every race that was ever in a human body, and even a mammal, because it's Leo the lion. And across from it, we have the old Leo count, which is 26 to 29 degrees of Leo. The opposite side is Cygnus, the dead from those lines. And so we call it the angelic realm because we have angelic help. Why? Because it's the highest point because it's up in Aquarius. That energy gate's going higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher because the wheel's going like this. It's not flat. The wheel's going like this. So when we get up to Aquarius, then we're getting the higher perspective of what the heck was going on down here. Hi, Brenda. That's why it's the angelic realm, divine timelines. Now, this is where Venus is. So, wherever Venus is in your chart, it's going to create your reality that way. Wherever Venus is in your chart, whatever star system Venus is on, your reality is made from there, how you perceive it and what happens. So, it with the sun on top is really in heaven. The sun is way up in heaven. Now, what's interesting is that this little conjunction pattern that we have, it's conjuncting to Saturn at 27 degrees and then pulling it back. So it's like the sun is so high up in the angelic realm. It's looking over all the divine timelines. We've got the moon coming over, really highlighting any type of emotions that have been done with any type of energy manipulation, good or bad. Okay. But it's linked to Saturn at 27 degrees that has been dancing over this. Saturn's gone direct over Cygnus. It's gone, and it's all been cleaned up. And Saturn holds what happens to you on land. What Saturn does is it connects with the moon and Pluto. So it connects with your past events, and it connects with because Pluto's your soul contracts. Okay. Pluto's your soul contracts. It's going to hold soul contracts. So this is depending on where y'all's Pluto is and if it's in retrograde. This is why some of you, we meet people and we just know that they're destined to do this or destined to that. Why? Because we read soul contracts. We can't help it. Pluto is really linked to what's going on with Turkey too. So there's Venus, and it's hooking into. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about Saturn. I mean the sun. The sun is conjunct. Boom, boom, boom. The sun's conjunct Saturn. Saturn is it basically backs up all the deeds that you've done, backs up where you're supposed to be, what lane you're supposed to be in because of the lessons you've already learned, because of what you've already graduated, what energy you've been putting into things to build it, to manifest it. What steps have you been taking on the ground to get it done? Saturn knows all of that. And then Saturn helps beam that down to make it your reality. Okay. So the sun is really highlighting right now what everybody's been up to. Okay. Now Venus has this same little connection. So if you have the sun, see, it's dipping back into Saturn and it's pulling Saturn up to the sun. Now, Venus is doing the same thing with Neptune right now. And Neptune is your subconscious, and it's the subconscious of the collective. Now, here's the thing. It's all in this hybrid space station degree. Now, this used to be called Zeta Reticuli. And really what this was a ray right here that came into into our atmosphere and made like a little distorted gate right here. And this would also be a hybrid ship. This would be any type of, if you've ever had the consciousness that you were taken on a spaceship somewhere, or if you ever have had the consciousness that you were locked in somewhere. A lot of people who have this degree have a degree of agoraphobia because it's all mind manipulation, that you need the ship, that you need the powerful suit. Here's another example. Straight hybrid space station, okay, that wasn't cleaned up, that was built in order to control the human race, because it was, and to distort human bodies, because it was, and to distort that lineup on the walking plane, because it was. You'll hear people like Corey Good talk about being taken into space on these 20-year missions, and then they, each time that they level up, they get a different suit. And they get this new suit on the space station, and that suit has different powers. And so everyone minds their P's and Q's and make sure that they don't abuse anything, and they listen to their leader, even though they're making them do some stuff they don't agree with, so that they can power up and get that suit. That's a great example of this degree, and if you hold it in your energy, because the truth is you don't need the suit. The truth is the suit ain't doing nothing. The truth is you're doing it. They want you to believe the suit is doing it so that they can control you and decide when you get your new suit. Okay? Venus coming in totally clear with all the new body codes, because that is what we had to do with Venus. It's what Venus is. It's that connection to Mars, to the sun. It's right in between. Venus comes, it goes Sun, Mars, Vega, Venus, and then Maldek was right next to it. And then I'll show you, because the January 6th download was all the Tesla math that showed me how all the planets work together in one big machine that we've been charting this off of. So with Venus on the subconscious of that aliens, which is just if y'all know what an EIN is, an EIN is a tax ID number for a business. Well, alien, and even Einstein, even what's his name, Weinstein, even. See, manipulation of currents, all those things are being shown to us through, or your subconscious is hearing it loud and clear, because Venus is basically, it's like the red carpet's rolled out to Venus and the crew and all the light beings, and it's like all the light beings and the pure souls that have put themselves back together are basically having to shrink their avatar to walk onto the red carpet of the spaceship, to now take over the ship, to explain how it's really running. Jupiter at 8 degrees of Aries is almost to 9. And when we get to 9, it's going to be a little bit easier sailing, because we had to rewrite 0 to 3. And the 0 to 3 degrees of Aries that we rewrote were inside the bodies of the humans. They didn't start reflecting out into the reality to reset DNA stories, to not include them, because we've already, if you walked this, or if you're about to, or if this is what you're doing now, okay, Realize that whenever you didn't make the same mistake Grandpa did, that was immediately erased from the rest of the line. Well, that new story had to be imprinted, let's say imprinted, inside your DNA and erased from the rest of the line unless certain ones are still on that path, and then it needs to pop up in their worlds however to show that they cleared it too, and then it goes. That's what rewrote from 0 to 3 degrees. So 3 to 6 was new stuff coming out that hadn't been dealt with down here in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. When we get to 9 degrees, then it's going to feel more like you're in life again. You're not in a pinball machine. You're so the closer, because all those are aligning now into a highway system, if you will, that's then putting all of our cars on that same freeway, so that just one or two isn't having to make sure that we're manifesting all the cars and manifesting all the freeway and keep everybody safe and shoots of them coming in. I mean, it's been crazy what we've all been doing in these etheric spaces in order to get us all on the same path and a correct mission and get back to our correct missions, because we all came in to work together. You know, you can't you can't silo yourself. It's what they want you to do. There's no way for us to build as a human collective anything new if we don't start working together, because realize that is all that they did was work together to come against the most powerful ones, period dot. So that 8 to 820 Jupiter is really highlighting. And then Mars back to that 12 to 16, because we've got Mars in Gemini at 1318, which when I pulled it, that's an 1111. And Mars is on ray number 6. Okay. So I'll go back, because Scorpio 1 is ray number 21, Scorpio 2 is ray number 22, Cygnus is ray number 30. Okay. And Gemini ray number 6 is, well, this is really Rigel. I call it in the rays raw consciousness, because this degree right here, 12 to 16 right here, is in Gemini, and it's the only one that's really connected to Sagittarius way over here, that's given us the body codes from underneath. Mummy connections, ash connections, fire connections, things forged through things. Everything's going to come straight through the middle of Sagittarius and hit down here. This could also, you could call it Tiamat. This is the divine feminine, even, because we are formed from the feminine is the dark space. The feminine is the reaction. The feminine is the creation. So this is into inside of our bodies, these changes that we made at these 0 degrees that Jupiter's bellowing out are hitting us much, much deeper than ever before. And this entire Mars colonization and yada 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 is being highlighted as well, because this was a construct that we were living in. I can even explain we were already there. You can see it by the cosmology that if you will, the collective was lifting up to a Mars frequency, and then they were controlling the Mars, because we had to go all the way up to get through source. So it's kind of like the whole popcorn. If we were popping Jiffy popcorn and it was poop 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 in the silver stuff, the foil, and we pop 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 pop, and that steam is coming up, Well, it was hitting Mars. And this is where they had all types of constructs that made us feel like we were on a spaceship. We were, and I'm even starting to wonder, I mean, this is just me and my theology, but even in the Bible, when the collective was living in what we thought was old Jerusalem and it was all sand and rock, and I mean, are we sure that they weren't on Mars? Are we sure that when Yahshua died, or right before, when he did his 40 days in hell, are we sure that he didn't go to Mars? See, I'm starting to think that actually, with how the planets are lined up and how we're understanding consciousness rising with the energies, that if that is where our consciousness was taking us to show us what that reality looks like. Okay. But that is the energy that's going on right now this week. It's aligning to your divine plan. It's being able to see through the shadows of the subconscious in Neptune, which is this space race stuff. It's being able to see through and feel through the emotional changes of any type of alchemy that was done to you, to your DNA line, to your collective, to your race, to whatever. Okay. And it's really getting to the inside seed as deep as it can go to trigger it so that it can either be released to set your son higher, or if it needs to be relearned in some set of events that we always pray is not the hardest. We pray for ease and grace, and we ask for ease and grace on all these lessons. So that's a little bit for the week to come, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. So just knowing that some of this shadow stuff is what it is, but making sure not to keep talking about it in only a low frequency way so that you can give the energy a new way to come fresh to you as well. And then with, and I'm not laughing at the Turkey earthquakes, not at all. I'm not, I want everyone to know that the deepest part of me has already cried for years for the amount of people and beings that we know are going to pass away because of Earth terraforming. This is why I couldn't stop. And it's why so many people have such a hard time understanding why I went raw, and even what happened to us as a collective when we had to rewrite the brain on the planet, because we did. We had been involved in Turkey. I have. Turkey came up around me with the story of these celebrity beings that were around me, that were walking me through specific pieces of the journey. Like I said in the beginning, that our family line never was able to show up and finish with their side. And this even goes into NATO, with their side of, as they were walking with the past 3 years, they all knew what was supposed to happen next. The ball was supposed to be thrown here, and this person was supposed to catch it and run it in. Well, that's only because the right quarterback got his knee hurt the last time, and it was black magic. So this time, the right quarterback was in. So they assumed that we still needed to throw it here, here, here to make the touchdown. And you've had people around you in your life trying to push you to make those same steps. And just depending on who you are and depending on what you claimed up until 2020 was dependent on how forceful those energies were coming in to try to get you to make the same play. Now, this all has to do with money, and it has to do with banking, and it has to do with the 7 churches in Göbekli Tepe and a stargate to Pluto. So if Turkey is known as the 7 churches, right where Turkey is, you have spheres. You have major spheres of consciousness that all intertwine on one little stick right there. And then around there, you have communities of red races that, through their elders or whatever it is, are controlling the people by controlling the rise and flow of frequency. But it had always been set up before this on the 7 churches. Now, that earthquake going off showed us that that was unwound, even though it brought devastation, and even though people and babies and everything are passing. Our problem is that this could have been stopped. This could have been stopped. It was not necessary for Turkey to go through this unwinding. Every single one of us angelics and that have been on this trail, building bridges, attempting to explain to the elders and the ones that were in charge the new physics and how the collective creates energetics, and how this is being run now from a much larger machine of organic technology that is your planet, and it is your blood, and it is your DNA, and it is your stars, and it's the cosmos. It's how everything works together to produce your life down here. But those who had the most power were so entrenched, and also to their benefit. You know, when you're in those positions of power, you're also having to make hard decisions for large groups of people. Those large groups of people are assigned to you. So if you have large groups of people that their consciousness is set, it is basically impossible for that leader to flip unless they have a very strong current that's pulling them up, because all these down here are holding on for dear life. So I'm not even necessarily blaming the powers that be, but I am blaming countries like the Philippines for selling off their people. I am blaming, these leaders that knew what I'm telling you, that were following the same playbook that I'm telling you right now. This is, and they knew the whole time and just refused to see what time it was. And what time it is for massive restoration and change and new earth. And new earth isn't just cleaning the house. New earth isn't just coming in, cleaning your house, getting a bunch of crystals, saying that you're activated, and then going and doing whatever you were doing before, but better than you thought you could do it. No. Everything down here has to be rethought. It we are in the largest renaissance that has ever hit humanity. But right now, there's just a small percentage of us that really see it. And when you're talking about any type of pyramid structure, because it is what it is, it's a champagne glass, and then that's a stack of champagne glasses, and this one gets filled, and then it goes down. It's how DNA works, it's how lines work, it's how energetics work. Once you understand how you're connected into it, and how much your vote and what you do, and your vote in your head, your vote in your heart, how much it changes everybody and your reality once it's set correctly. So we want to send prayers to Gaia. We want to send prayers to the earth. We want to send messages out to the human race that shows them they can stop. They can help stop and support us and and stop these land changes that are happening by joining together and realizing that their energy and what however it was being managed is what caused the cracks to begin with. And the closer that we get to that, the less catastrophe that we have to have. But to all those who came against us, and for all those who have caused this, from not connecting in the story the past couple of years, all that you did was prolong the inevitable for 3 years, and all you've done now is make every single one of these changes that much more extreme on both sides. And it will no longer be tolerated, because even anything down here on earth, anything that especially from a collective that needs to learn something, right, it will be allowed until we learn our lesson, because there's a purpose. So all this black magic, lies, manipulation, whatever we've lived through these past few years, especially if you're like me and you're on your mission, even though you listen to me and you might not understand everything, you know that energetically it's helping you keep aligned. Each one of those events was allowed because it helped teach us something, or it helped teach the one over you that you didn't realize, maybe, that was managing this energy over your head, and then you were having to learn how to download it quicker, and then you were having to learn how to do these little things to protect yourself. There's no longer a reason for it. Our collective has learned to the extent where we've reset everything the way it should have been set divinely before mass manipulation of collectives and harvesting of energy and cloning. There's no more need for it, and it won't be allowed anymore. So have a great week. I'm gonna put together some programming on days. Looks like Sunday I come on a lot, and because I'm getting set, I'm just following my own process. And so in the next couple of weeks, we'll have some set days that we have shows on here that are dealing with these little pieces as we walk together to utilize the tools that we have. The other thing, one last, is that I'll mention it here. I was charting the moons, and we've got a super new moon that's happening on the 20th, and it's and number 31 Fomalhaut, which is Archangel Gabriel, which is the high. So all these things that are happening with Saturn and the moon and Venus and Neptune right now are all leading up to that new moon on the 20th to align it to Fomalhaut, because Cygnus is right here. Fomalhaut's way out here. It's the eye. It's one eye way out there, attached into Regulus, which is way down in Leo and in Virgo. Okay. And don't forget, Pluto is going to go to zero. Pluto's at 29 degrees of Capricorn right now, which is basically the end of Lyra 3 and the end of the root races. So it's putting all those bubbles back together from all the root races. It's hitting right there. And then we've got Mercury that's at, and I didn't talk about Mercury earlier. Mercury, the thought process is literally in the middle of the veil right now. So if you think of Capricorn as all these energies that's making a form, and then at the Aquarius gate it blows up into pixels, and you've got millions and billions of pixels that you've got to walk through. 0 degrees of Aquarius is like that veil, and that's where the mind process is right now of the collective. It's seeing through these distortions. But remember, Pluto is going to go to 0 degrees Aquarius, and then it's going to retro again. So I just want to remind everybody that whatever you're continuing to build now, that you started building probably back in November, whatever you're continuing to do now, as we're dancing with the collective, and all these gears that are turning on and turning off, and things that are being shown and not shown, when Pluto goes backwards again, then it's going to be even backing up whatever soul contracts were cleared, reinstated, new ones made. So until Pluto goes retrograde, which I don't know when that is, it's coming up. Until Pluto goes retrograde at 0 degrees, everything that we're doing now is what is going to get put into Pluto, to allow the new soul contracts for the next 10, 15, 20 years to play out, because we did a complete scrub of this thing. So just stay in your highest vibration, keep creating, keep making the moves, follow your intuition, okay? And just also remember, don't get full on the chips before the steak comes. I'll say that over and over, because I think the main thing that tricks us the most during these gates is we've waited so long. We've waited so long for so many things, and we've all cleared so much. And it's like we're in a lot of ways, we're full of love, we're full of spirit, but in a bunch of 3D things, we're empty. So when that first image arrives that something's coming in, it's better than what we've got, because right now we don't have it at all. You see what I'm saying? So when that the first thing that comes in that's going to shadow it, we tend to jump at, instead of taking our time, remembering, letting our consciousness remind us, if this somebody is coming in who's supposed to be there, if it's a memory of someone who isn't, if it's a memory of someone who used to be there but now they're different in a good way. Even also, careful not to blame everybody coming in new for being the shadow existence, not blaming the steak for being the chips, right? So this is the mastery part of dealing with shadow. And let's become masters. If y'all want any type of services and want to talk to me, we can work it out. I've got everything's really inexpensive to deal with me, because I understand where we're at. Plus, whenever you do pay me for certain things, what I'm doing is powering that up for the rest of us in order to get those payments out to the rest of us. Okay, so meaning, and we've seen it trickle down. It's like you might order just a coloring book from me, or you just want to talk to me for 30 minutes for $55, which is how much it is, just because you want to talk through something and get my opinion on some lineups, and I look at your chart. I don't have to even explain it all anymore. Anything any type of healing, if you're getting sick, you need to upgrade, whatever, or you want a coloring book, or just want to chat about getting involved, it's OfficialChastiaCav at Gmail. Please email me and I get back to you, usually within 24 hours. And other than that, I'll be back this week, and stay clear, stay high vibe, don't fake it. Just make sure you stay in a good mood, and the rest of this will be seen.